Welcome to Hexal Tactic. Hexal Tactic is a turn-based strategy game where players compete with each other to capture resource nodes, allocate themselves more AP, and eventually capture either the opponent's nodes and their pieces, or takes a centralized captured node, which unfortunately is not on this prototype board. Here's how the game works. Players have AP. Every time they capture a node, they get more AP per turn. This AP can be used to spawn a unit like so. It can also be used to move units. Other player gets the same moves. As I said, the AP can be used to capture more nodes, which allows the player to get more AP per turn. This allows the player to spawn more units. Also allows the player to have multiple points for spawning units. AP can also be used to upgrade the nodes. Upgrading the nodes means that the player gets more AP per turn. It also means the player can spawn bigger and better units. Combat occurs between nodes and or units. In this example, player 1, who is orange, is capturing player 2's node. In this very basic and contrived example, player 1 combats player 2's units directly. The motivation for this game came from basically every other strategy game that's out there. Whether it be a game like StarCraft 2, Supreme Commander, Civilization, Total War series, Sins of Solar Empire, whatever the strategy game may be, there are usually a couple key mechanics that tie them all together. Those mechanics are combat, tech, and expansion. Hexal Tactic encapsulates all of these. It has combat through units and nodes, there's teching through upgrading your units and your nodes, and then there's expansion through capturing nodes and using the resources to your advantage. That is the key difference with this game compared to other strategy games. It encapsulates all of those strategy mechanics while also being generic enough where it doesn't require micro, it doesn't require a ton of fancy flashy art assets, and it doesn't require a massive knowledge of unit statistics in order to properly strategize against whatever your opponent is doing. That's basically Hexal Tactic in a nutshell. Hexal Tactic allows a player to experience all of those key elements to strategy games while also being relatively easy to play, and conversely also being a lot easier to develop in terms of final polish. Having final polish, would be nice, but it's not entirely necessary for this game. It's very similar to Go. Go doesn't require a million rules and a million fancy pieces. It's a board and 2 colors, and you put pieces down. So, how you play the game is very simple, but the strategy is where the depth is at. It's very similar to Hexal Tactic. The antagonist for this game is another player, hopefully. There is a risk involved, though, as multiplayer tends to be harder than people realize. So, if that ends up being the case, a very, very simple local multiplayer to show the game off, or possibly changing it to single player and having a really basic AI would be necessary. There's also some potential overscoping issues when it comes to unit upgrades and combat. It's very easy to want combat to have flanks and group buffs and rotations and different attack angles. Keeping it at least first to 1-to-1 trades will make the game much less fun but easier to make. Also, the game having very simple node upgrades, basically just when you get an upgrade you get more AP and you can spawn bigger units. That will make the game a lot easier to build for the same reasons. Another potential problem is the balancing. The game is perfectly balanced per se, but there could be a singular strategy that becomes really powerful, like rush the first node to max, spawn a unit, and just keep running around the board like that. If something really weird like that happens, that'll have to come down to balancing, or to balance testing before it actually comes out as a problem. Alright, that's my presentation. Thank you very much for checking out Hexal Tactic.